Slides here. I think Ty's gonna start us off. If that's okay, Ty, giving a little bit of an overview to what chefs want.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, everybody, thanks for joining us today. Hopefully we make this nice and succinct and kind of clear. And as you go through, as was mentioned, go ahead and shoot us some questions and we'll kind of bank those and get to them. We might collect them as we go. They might be answered as we go. So, we all appreciate you guys showing up and hopefully we can spread some information here. So, um, essentially, what we are is a distribution agency. We're based out of Louisville, Kentucky. Um, as you can see in the slide here, it started well before both Maddie and I worked here. It was a one delivery van with 13 competitors. And as it kind of just grew and grew, we moved into basically three major hubs. There's 16 satellite warehouses, a few cross docks floated across the region. We've got two fresh cut facilities, which are doing actually, cutting and packing products, fresh cut products. And then, yeah, so as you can tell here, we, kind of got that mid upper north Midwest action taken care of, and then we trickle down into the south there, and then we've got some facilities over in the Colorado area. We're servicing with plus or minus 400 trucks as we service this whole area. This is kind of a little more succinct view of what where we're servicing in that kind of heat map there. Um, and that's really our challenge. Obviously, this conversation that we're talking about here is, very specific on the Ohio region, which, we have the local food connection in which you're talking to has basically its roots as a food hub out of Cincinnati. So very familiar with the customer, the area, the growing region, the concerns, everything that you guys are kind of here discussing with us. We're super familiar with over the years. Maddie is an Ohio resident. I'm an Indiana resident, but I've been working with Ohio farms and producers for probably about 10 years myself. Um, we we based the base of the company was a produce company. As we continue to grow, we moved into the meat and seafood. We've got our own packing facility in the Louisville warehouse on on the meat products. That side of the protein. We've got a full on seafood side of things. We work within the dairy realm, not just milk and but we've got a lot of micro creameries that we work with from a cheese aspect, also milk. I'm actually wearing a Snowville hat, as you guys are probably familiar with the Snowville brand. We service gourmet products, so that's everything from shelf stable to charcuterie products. Not just the meat and cheeses of those boards, but the specialty nuts and that kind of thing. Um, General staples and to-go items, so everything from packaged or you know paper plates and products that need to be, for to-go boxes and that kind of thing. So, kind of do a full complement of everything within the industry. And really, obviously we are also known as Creation Gardens. That's what the initial name was, and there was a rebranding for What Chefs Wants, and that's really what we hone in on and try to figure out exactly what what the chefs are wanting in their industry. We do service other areas in within the food business, but that is our primary concern, is trying to satisfy the needs of chefs so they can better their clientele, or better their service for their clientele. So that's a good basis of who we are and what we're up to. Um, as mentioned, we've got the prep kitchen. We've got it's a refrigerated prep kitchen running all sorts of different pack sizes for products, from whatever schools needs, or specifically labor reduction for chefs at their facilities, institutional customers looking for products that are chopped and pre-cut, so they don't have to take care of the labor there. So kind of a cost value product that we're adding on that side. Our services, as you can see here, we do some split cases on a fair amount of products. There's no minimums to our deliveries. We've got daily deliveries basically to most of those regions. There can be limited delivery days based on how far places, but our general model is daily deliveries to all customers. We've got a customer service line called the Wild Department. They are there helping us help the customers and the vendors 24 hours a day. And then general broadline management of products, not just specialty goods like what we're talking about, not small farms. We've got a huge broad stroke of what most large um, customers might need. But then again, our LFC side of the business is looking at you know different things. And here's a slide that's specifically on this. There's these two are pretty different in the industry. With the Local Food Connection, we are striving to find and help small producers get into a larger scope of distribution, um, while keeping, the thought and the understanding of what it means to be local, what it means to be, a specialty producer, what it means to be small scale with the potential of, becoming a larger local producer within the company. And that's kind of on the same token, Boat Direct does a really cool thing where they're sharing specific products that are caught in a day with our customers, and then the customers have an opportunity to purchase that right as it comes out of comes off the line or onto the boat. So pretty cool aspect to a larger distribution company. We just recently transitioned and launched into our new ordering platform, which is called Cut and Dry. It's got very specifically cool attributes where we can highlight farms, we can give the story, we can share with the customers specifically what you guys are doing, how you guys are producing things, and obviously, it's gets great images either provided by the farm or our bank images, but we can offer up some very specific strategies on how to make your product shine within the website.
Awesome. Thanks, Ty. I'm gonna dig in a little further into some of the things that are unique about our program that Ty and I work with within the company that he kind of alluded to. So we work in the Local Food Connection program, and I think that's probably one of the areas of our company that would be most relevant for this audience and who we have here today. And we really kind of bridge within What Chefs Want. We help kind of bridge the local agriculture scene. Like Ty said, we've both been in this industry, in this world space of food systems um, and the food world for many years, and so have some of our other colleagues. So kind of bridging the concerns and the values that come out of local agriculture with sort of the more traditional status quo of the food distribution system. And that's kind of that sweet spot that our company and our program tries to offer or to bridge. And we really try to be that connector between farmers and chefs. And so we're kind of positioned as the foremost distribution solution for the customers who want to know about that story of where their food comes from, because as we know, there are a lot of customers and accounts and individual eaters who might be dining with a different an establishment like a restaurant or a cafeteria that want to know, where is this food coming from, that source and that story. And just like the rest of the company as a whole, Local Food Connection actually works across all categories. So it's not only produce. Of course, produce is a big part of a program that's focused on local products, but we have meat, dairy, seafood, gourmet products, some of those staple items. And so really it's across all categories. We have items, Ty showed you guys the map view. We have producers at the small and medium sized scale with those local and regional roots in all of those states that are offering products across these categories. And we work a lot with partners. So I know there's some partner organizations and like farmer support, food business support organizations on the call, including AceNet, who's our host. But we really work a lot with partners to kind of leverage resources that we can access together and kind of try new projects and innovate that way. We serve many different types of customers. So the name of the company is What Chefs Want. And so that probably conjures, a restaurant chef. And that is a big part of our business. But we actually also work a lot with schools, colleges and universities, healthcare systems, hospitals, retirement communities, even some retail and grab and go and direct to consumer outlets, as well as the bigger corporate restaurants, which you might think of as like a chain restaurant, in addition to those really, small independent restaurants that have a farm to table story. So we are really serving lots of different kinds of customers. And by offering that traceability and that storytelling about our vendors that we work with, we are able to allow the customer to really choose, what do they care about most and how do they define local? Because many of us know that local can mean a lot of different things to different people. We have all the information and all that supply chain and all the diverse vendors to really be able to offer that to the customer. So our founder of our program was not able to join us tonight, but she actually started the Local Food Connection program about a decade ago as a small local food hub that Ty mentioned was in the Cincinnati area. And then it kind of grew into this larger program that is now part of What Chefs Want and across all those many states that you saw on the map. So from the beginning, we've been very rooted in this kind of tri-state area of that includes Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana, and also in that mission-driven approach to really build up the supply chain with small and medium-sized farms and food artisans. We really see ourselves as a resource, a solution, and a partner to people who are like us, who really love and care about this stuff and really want to, like Reggie sort of said in his intro, figure out how do we make this work on a bigger scale? How do we reach more customers through distribution? And so really that's what we're committed to, is creating a system that works at both ends for the local food producers and the buyers. And kind of go back to these core kind of values or core identities of being values driven, supporting farms and food businesses, focusing on supporting, different kinds of food businesses and farmers, and also helping customers to figure out what their values are and then support vendors and find products that fit those. We're also really education driven, so we're working constantly to do things like our session tonight with partners and in other spaces to offer our kind of technical assistance, our knowledge and know-how to help farmers and food businesses navigate distribution, navigate, market development and business growth, but then also really educating the customers, like, why is this valuable? Why is it important to know your farmer and where this food comes from? How do you plan appropriately so that you can get the products that you want working with a small farm? Because we all know that you can't always just say, hey, grow me this specific specialty item. It takes a while to plan for those kinds of things. And then finally, we're really value being traceable and transparent and offering that to both our vendors and our customers so that our producers can understand, like, where is their product going and what is the impact we're having. So we work a lot with schools, I mentioned, and universities, and that's really powerful as a food business to be able to say and to know that your food went to a bunch of kids in your community and to help them grow and learn. So we like to be able to share that information back and then also ensure our customers that they know where their food comes from, that it's food safe every step along the way, and be able to tell that story to their diners as well. So you don't really need to scan this. I'm going to share out links as we keep going, and I'm sure AceNet can direct you to us. But we have information online that's there if you want to learn more. And next, I'm going to pass it back to Ty to talk a little bit about kind of what it's like working with us as a vendor and how we approach our relationships with vendors.
Yeah, thanks. So, it's kind of a twofold situation that we're here. What we deal with here is that, we have a sales outlet, but our intent is to make sure that we're buying, procuring, and delivering the needs of the customers based on your guys' production. So it's very important that we work backwards to understand how we as a company can produce or provide the product in which you guys are creating in a thoughtful manner that does not um, lose its emphasis of its being local or to each and individual customer. So we've got to talk through how, as a buyer or as a partner, how do we do this? How do we make sure that we're not just buying and selling, without losing that emphasis, without losing the importance of who we're working with? And occasionally that might be the case. Maybe, you can deal with large commodity farms that in the area that don't want to tell the story as much as, or don't need to tell the story as much as others. So we have to work with you guys, depending on what the intent is from each individual, and that's kind of goes back to Maddie's educational process, is that we as a distributor are taking the time to make sure that we talk to smaller producers, to educate, to make sure that we are doing the right thing for our company, but also, supporting the customers in which are looking to tell the story. So it's kind of it's multi-tiered on how to get to the point of buying and selling. Um, but that's what it is. It is about being a partner. It's about buying the right products, offering the right products to the market. And for example, today I was dealing with a current customer, or sorry, a current vendor of ours that no longer wants to do the routes themselves. They've got direct to customers. So I'm working backwards with them and just, do some customer cross-referencing, trying to alleviate their pain points for distribution in general, because as we all know, that is its own business, its own aspect, and it's a cost, a cost evaluation of how can he save time, how can he make better moves for his farm. This is a dairy farm, but how can he eliminate, an extreme amount of cost for maintenance and utilize systems that are in place and routes that are in place to maximize his output and his input. So um, it is very important to have these conversations and work with producers on where they are in their distribution plan, where they are with their just their business model in general. So we have to understand that so we can integrate your businesses better into the larger system. What that is, what Chefs wants. So and as mentioned before, I mean these the customer options are virtually endless. There's not really one that we don't hit. There's obviously customers that we don't service, but there's each industry in which is purchasing food throughout the region is at some level we're servicing somebody somewhere out there. So we do understand exactly the needs. Retail has a complete different need than a chef does. Barcodes, UPCs, promotions, everything that goes into that versus, a chef wanting to flip some very specific radish for the next day. It's not, the completely different models. So, I think that one of our biggest values is having, really understanding each individual need for each one of these customers and how they navigate throughout the food system. And yeah, that's it. I mean, it is where is the right fit? Who is the right people? Is it the right? We got to find the right vendors. We got to find the right, buyers within our system to make sure that we're connecting and utilizing, our powers to make sure that we're making the right purchases, and then consequently making sure that the chefs and the customers and whoever it may be is getting specifically what they're looking for in a timely basis and as fresh as possible. So it is huge. All these conversations, it's not just a plug and play. There is specifically when we're talking with smaller, producers, it is very important that everybody takes the right, time and effort to connect.
Yeah, and what I'm going to talk about next is kind of building out from what Ty was sharing, like a helpful, I think it's helpful way of thinking about your business and your farm to help you figure out where you fit kind of in the scheme of things, at least one view of that, so that you can enter into those conversations with us or with another distributor with that perspective in mind. And so Anna, who's our program director, I mentioned and showed you a picture of her earlier. She came up with this. She's been in the field for a long time, and she's like, I sort of see people that are in local food, small scale or medium sized farms and food businesses. They kind of follow this path. In a trajectory. Of course, it's not always like in a straight line. It's not always in this order, but there's sort of sorry if there's some feedback. There's sort of a series of characteristics that she's observed. And so when you're first starting out, she said it's pretty common that your market is sort of in a personal sphere. You're maybe, feeding yourself and your family, your friends, you're sharing kind of maybe not even for sale, maybe it's just more distributing among people that you know personally and that kind of way. And then as you grow, you're maybe going to your local community. So that could be like through a farm stand, a farmer's market, a community supported agriculture model or CSA. We actually work with Market Wagon, which is another kind of direct to consumer model. And there's other similar types of web-based things where you can serve your local community and find customers really close to home in that way. And then if you want to keep growing, and again, these aren't necessarily mutually exclusive, but we see maybe farms and food businesses will go to direct wholesale. So they might sell themselves directly to restaurants, mom and pop grocery stores, the local schools, and be, directly handling all of those transactions and fulfillment and delivery and stuff like that. And then usually if the farmer food business is like, I want to keep expanding what markets I'm reaching, then they kind of have a decision point. So Anna brilliantly said, here's where you kind of have three options. You can kind of continue to go it alone and keep expanding one through three, finding more restaurants, more farmers markets, going that way. You can hand it over to a big distributor, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, or you could work with a partner in market development. And that's kind of what our program, the Local Food Connection Program, really offers. So you can work with a local food hub. Food hubs, some of you will be familiar, it's kind of a term that refers to a kind of organization that's sort of a social enterprise. This came up as a big model starting in the 1990s. Again, it's where our program, Local Food Connection, started and then, became part of What Chefs Want. So that's one model, really working with a local partner to do that market development and distribute from there. Getting a little bit bigger, could work with someone like what we are now, Local Food Connection at What Chefs Want, which is serving sourcing focused customers. You get a lot of that kind of still personal partnership that maybe you get in a food hub, but you are getting some of those other benefits that Ty just went through and exploring some of those different customer opportunities and tapping into our larger distribution network and logistics. Or you could keep going, and we offer this option too at What Chefs Want. We have other purchasers that purchase commodity produce, that purchase on a much larger scale, and really do just general distribution. And it's maybe a little less personal partnership support, but you're going to have access to general distribution with us as a big buyer. So that's kind of that biggest market development access. And so using this to kind of think about where are you, and it's not necessarily again like a one directional journey, but where do you fit on this kind of spectrum? And I think that what we really wanted to focus on, and like what we thought you'd be most interested in today, is talking to us about these last couple ones, because that's where we sit right now. You know, even though some of us I used to work at a farmer's market, you know, we have experience in some of these other fields. This is where our company is really focused today. And so as you're thinking about where you might sit, where your business is, where you want it to be, you know, keep in mind that as we get up into the larger numbers here, the expectations are that you would have larger volume of your product. You might be getting lower pricing. So especially if you're in number 6, you're not necessarily going to get the farmer's market pricing. And then also, you know, potentially less brand recognition of your specific product being tied to your specific company, especially if you're in number 6 here. But we still find that that's a big part of what we do for the Local Food Connection program, as I just said. So these are all with a grain of salt, but just thinking generally, there's kind of differences, variation in terms of some of these factors. And this is just a few examples of how these market points really work in terms of your branding, your product. And so we mostly want to keep most of the rest of the time for us talking, but there's just a few other things we wanted to share about our business and what we do and what we offer before we open the floor. And so I know that Asa shared, you know, with us and probably with you all, that it'd be helpful to know, like, what are some of the benefits of working with us? So we already talked about that education and the distribution, logistics, and all the experience and access to customers that we have. But I also want to put a little spotlight on some of our marketing and storytelling resources, because that is a really big aspect of what we're able to offer in the Local Food Connection program, and as a larger company with, you know, like people who are focused on marketing. And so some of the exciting things that we've been working really hard on, actually very, very recently, is we have a newsletter that comes out every week. If you're interested in getting it, you can sign up at the bottom of our website. It's on every page, just the bottom, and I'll put the links in the chat in a little bit. But recently we added to it so that it has info about what's happening in the produce world and in the industry in general, but it also now has a weekly list of our local produce with each of the origins and the vendors that are providing that local produce, and that's updated every week, and it links right to our lists of local produce in our ordering system. So we're really trying to make it super visible and super accessible for our customers to prioritize local and to know who the vendor is, and that brand and that storytelling and that source traceability of businesses like yours. And so that's one thing that if you're working with us, you can, you know, expect to have your company being represented there. And then we also have really active social media presence, doing features of different products and different vendors, as well as like some of that impact working with different customers. And that's actually a really big thing in terms of when we go to events too. So recently I went, and then several of our team that's focused just on working with schools went to the Kentucky School Nutrition Association. There's one in Ohio too. So we have a presence at a lot of these events where we spotlight some of the vendors that we work with in that local area, and again, communicate about the products, the story, the impact. We have a new resource this year called Local Food Guides. They're only for a couple states right now, but we're hoping to work on having them for every state. And then we have vendor profiles for a lot of our vendors, again, trying to get one for each vendor. So these are one sheets that we can just hand out to customers that you can use as a vendor yourself to tell your story. And then building off of that for other things like video, social media, blogs. We also have a What's Local Now webpage that is a new feature on our website. And again, I'll put the link in the chat. But that's kind of a place where a lot of this stuff lives. So your customers or other people that are interested in local food will have a one-stop shop to find out about our vendors and who we work with. So now to wrap us up before we open the floor, Ty is going to talk for a few minutes about what the next steps look like if you want to become a vendor with us.
Yeah, so there's kind of two lanes on this. So we've got our general normal process, which is a third party. Like basically, you'll see an email from myself or somebody of within the company saying, "Hey, thanks for reaching out. Here's next steps." Basically, it's a email packet of all sorts of goodies about yourself that you need to fill out, and details about your brand, W-9s, got to get COIs, all the fun stuff that proves that FDA numbers that you're operating within the correct means within the state and the nation in general. So which then gets channeled through to our food safety team, and they approve all that fun stuff after I've kind of done the vetting for them. One key aspect of that is a third party audit. So if you're a farmer getting a gap audit or a third party recognized audit, and same with food producer, a general producer is a GMP audit. That being said, there's also this is where things get a little bit interesting, because we have an opportunity to choose a different angle on that and not go through our food safety process traditionally by sourcing products that are basically guaranteed through the customer that they are wanting to source that specific product. So we had a few programs that we were working with schools last year, that we had some guarantees from the schools that whatever we had vetted for them was appropriate enough for their food safety. So that is typically very driven by a customer. So I want to be clear on that. Like, we have to find an angle and a way to make sure that that's an outlet and a pattern, or sorry, a path to get there. But I don't want people that aren't third party audited to understand, or to not understand that is a complete roadblock. It's a speed bump. And our third party audit is the traditional way and the preferred way, but that doesn't mean that doesn't, we have to close the doors on that conversation. So it is a very important aspect to this whole process, because there's we want to make sure that we're having these communications and conversations to get people to feel comfortable either going that route, or making sure that we are working with the partners in which we've been discussing through how can we offer products that don't fall into that traditional path, and how can we make sure that food producers are still getting an option and the benefits of all the distribution things that we've just been discussing. So there's that piece. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of we shared a lot. I mean, we're talking for almost 40 minutes. So hopefully that gives you a starting point of understanding who we are, what we do, kinds of things that come up when you're interested in working with us. Here's our email address. This is kind of like a group email that goes to everybody that's on our team, that Ty and I are on. So it's localfoodconnection@whatchefswant.com. So if you have any follow-up questions, that's how you can reach us. I will put some links in the chat in a minute once I stop sharing my screen. But I think the next step is just first to thank you guys for listening to all that info. But secondly, to see what questions you have or thoughts, find out a little bit more about where you all are in that kind of market development journey, and yeah, open the floor. Jasmine asks, any plans to extend further east? So that is above time my pay grade, I think, to decide that specifically. We do distribute out to Athens. We go out there even though that didn't quite show on the heat map. But so we go as far east as the edge of Ohio, pretty much. Um, but it's always possible. We've been growing a lot over the last few years, so I think that I don't have any intel, but I wouldn't say it's out of the question. Ty, do you have any other thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I would say the company does a lot of acquisitions when when it makes sense for us to expand. So I would just say that if there was the right move, I'm sure they have no intent on stopping going east. But yeah, I agree with Maddie. I'm not. We have no great intel on that other than that.
Jasmine, I will say if you want to share with me your email, we have other opportunities for webinars that does extend more into Western Pennsylvania and West Virginia. And so it's not just a no, it's a no with West Just Once right now until they figure more. But with AceNet, we do cover the Appalachia region, and then within our network, we cover South Central and Central Appalachia. So there may be other opportunities for you out there.
That's why the partnerships are so great. It's like if we don't got it, we know someone that does. So yeah, great question and answers. What other questions or ideas, thoughts about what you're trying to do with your business? It's an opportunity for us to learn a little bit about you too. Keep putting links in the chat.
Yeah, guys, feel free to share. This is your time to ask questions. Let us understand what your needs are. We can't help the people if we don't know what the people need. So the more you share, the more we have this conversation. You're not just asking for yourself. I'm sure you're asking for a lot of other people. Again, this is being recorded. And so some of these questions where people don't have the opportunity to ask, maybe your question could be one of those questions that they need answered.
How do you ask a question?
You're on the
Doing
roll.
it.
Go ahead.
Roll.
We grow tomatoes, Roma and round, and I have good. I get rid of my larger tomatoes, Roma and round, pretty good, but I have trouble with medium and small, especially Romas. But I know that that's what a lot of salsa companies use.
So I'll speak for it on a little bit. So um it's an interesting journey as far as like how produce is, spec'd and graded and or sold through a distribution company, and it depends on the customer too. Like, so are we we currently are not a vendor, or sorry, a distributor that is purchasing like seconds or B grades, but that doesn't mean that you have seconds or B grades. They're just a smaller product. So that's the tweak. That's the marketing angle that we have to talk about. Is it a petite? Is it how do you do it right to make sure it makes sense? It's not all about manipulation of the market. It's about does that product actually fit the need of something that we would want, or somebody else would want in the area. So yeah, it's exactly that point, is having these conversations. What does that look like? What is it going to cost? Can it be marketed correctly? There, unfortunately, I can't give you a grade, a solution, but I can give you some reasons or ways that we can look at it differently.
I know that they sell because in the past I've sold to larger, I mean, huge farmers because they do it themselves, and then and they always buy some if they don't have enough, and it's mostly for chop. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
for sizes.
Well, I mean, case
And
in
we
point,
are
if the
Primus authorized. You know what I mean?
yeah, perfect. Yeah, and to our case in point, like that's where maybe the prep kitchen gets involved, and we find a solution for you know a school that wants some sort of diced tomato or something of that nature, and we can utilize that instead of another product. So again, there's ways around it. We sometimes have to get creative to think about it, but is it a cost point thing? Is it like I said, the answer it could be there, but this we got to work through it to make find the solution kind of thing. So
Okay.
it's worth a conversation.
So at the end of this, will there be a contact person to talk to by telephone or anything?
So did you put it in here, Maddie?
I put our email.
I wrote that down.
That's probably the best way to get in touch with us when you say Ty.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's not like it's a huge team that we're talking about on the local food connection. So there's it's myself, Matt. There's basically like 5 of us. So um, eventually it will come back to Maddie, myself, or the director. But we'll do the vetting for the director so we don't waste her time either. Not I don't mean that this is a waste of time. I'm just saying so we make sure we give her the right details, right? So
Yes.
anyways, yeah, no, I mean that if you utilize that email address and then from there we can start doing the conversation further.
One more question. We have a nice farm in southeastern Ohio. It's in Meigs County, and we are interested in growing anything. Is there anything there that you guys are looking to be grown, like for next season or something, that you have a shortage of or something?
That's always one of those great questions. And to be honest, it's yes, there is. What it is, I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, there's, it is, just for example, like we've had people asking for, oh, what's that pepper? I'm spacing on the pepper name.
Habanero or
No, it's like the concha del. It's like a very cylindrical, long red pepper that doesn't take it. It grows faster than it ripens faster than a typical bell kind of thing. So it's easily produced in the area, and we had some farmers or some customers looking specific for that for this year. So we had a farm started growing that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, there's very much so. There's a customer that is looking for a sun gold tomato or something like that we don't have enough volume on, or that the current farm is not making or creating, pardon me. And that's when we have that opportunity. We didn't get into it too much, but we do some crop planning with farmers based on needs, and that's where Anna comes very integral, and we've got our another person that does very specific conversations with institutions like Vanderbilt or whatever the case may be, and they ask for specific things they need for the school year, and then we reverse it backwards and say, hey, farms, this is what is being requested. Can you be the source for that this year?
okay.
Yeah, and another thing I'd add to all the info Ty shared is like sometimes we've had big success trying out new things with a vendor or a few vendors and a customer or a few customers and like a partner. So especially if we can like get a small grant or collaborate on some specific project, we've had a lot of success like piloting different efforts on a small scale one year and then expanding it into something bigger in the future. So you guys are all very expert in what you do, but also like what's possible. And I bet you're very creative, imaginative thinkers as well. So if you have a crazy idea that you're like, it just might work, we just need X, Y, and Z people. We need Reggie and we need Ty and we need, a couple other partners to get this to happen. For better or worse, sometimes it drives us crazy, but that is actually a big part of our programs, like how we operate. And Anna, our director, she is one of those people that's very innovative and creative. And so if you have an idea like that, do reach out to us. We can't say it'll happen right away, but that's something that we have experience in doing too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Jasmine had another question here. Training marketing language for farmers and assisting them to take the next step outside of their friend and family zone or the outdoor farmers market when the need is there in the community or local restaurants. Is this something available through AceNet? Technical assistance, that sounds like something that's definitely available through AceNet. Say more, Reggie.
Yeah, absolutely. So AceNet, we provide technical assistance not only to food and farming businesses, but to business throughout Appalachia. Right now, for the next couple months, we're working through the Appalachia Regional Food Business Centers to allow technical assistance throughout Ohio, West Virginia, Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, and Tennessee. So technical assistance is readily available. You can really just go to acenet .org and you can find our information to email us. I will put my information in this chat. Jasmine, I don't believe that I saw your registration, so I don't have your email address. So if you could send that to me, or if you want to shoot me an email, that's the best way to discuss those things. But we'd be more than happy to provide that assistance to you.
Great. Any other thoughts or questions? Derek, yeah, tell us.
I have a couple questions. Is it better to say them individually or just say them all?
Whatever you want. We'll try to keep track.
Okay. So the first one is, so one of the things that my farm has that's ready like this year, like in the next few weeks, is ginseng, but not the whole plant, not the root, how people are used to having it mostly. I'm going to be harvesting the leaves from my ginseng plants at like their peak time after they've developed their bud for next year. So I'm just taking the leaves before they would naturally fall off, like die back. And I've mostly been freeze drying and powdering everything that I grow. And so in a few weeks, I'll have this ginseng powder that will have the ginseng flavor and will have all of the medicine, the medicinal stuff too. But like in Korean cooking and in some Japanese cooking, ginseng is used, but it's not really used that much in America. But like,
Yeah, it's new to me. I'm like, ooh, ginseng leaves. I didn't even know that was the thing we could eat.
yep. And I eat a lot of them because they're all around me. But it is something like that too specialized for y'all to be able to maybe work with?
So I
Go
can I can answer this on again, I won't give you a specific yes or no because it's hard to say. There is a program that we have within our system that is called the Just-in-Time program, which we have not really gone over much, but that allows it's an interesting model, and I won't go into it too deep, but I'll glaze over it so you can understand kind of where I'm coming from on this. But basically, weekly we upload a document of available products that a farm is listing to us. This is typically a smaller farm that has ebbs and flows of specific products, and it has very specific numbers, limited numbers that may or may not make sense for the offerings for that week. Basically, they have access to add that product, that quantity to our system. Say it's 5 cases of this ginseng powder. Once we sold, say we sold 5 cases or 5 bottles of this ginseng powder, it would disappear off the website, and then it wouldn't be able to be purchased anymore. So it's truly acting as a just-in-time process. Is it too specialty? I mean, we've got food science products across the board, right? Like I would say No, but it's gonna be a hard sell, right? So really, like, it's just a matter of what makes sense for us to be listing 4 farms with the potential of selling. So if that was one of the items that say we partnered up, by all means, we could list it. We probably wouldn't be stocking it,
Well,
but
and Ty, like,
we could
correct
list
me
it.
if
Yeah.
I'm wrong, that's also a great specialty product that, like, Derek, if you said, hey, I know these 5 customers in your service area that I don't want to deliver to personally would want this. I could bring them with me and they're interested. That would be a different conversation than, like, I just have this thing, no one even knew we could eat it. Like, so
Yeah.
like Ty's saying, there's a lot of factors, but it sounds really exciting. So it's worth talking about more.
Yeah, and it is like we can't just list everything under the, under the sun, but that doesn't mean if it doesn't have a reason to be sold or it has a place to go, if it's got a home, we always are willing to consider it because there's movement that has to be done. There's hands that have to touch it. There's wheels that have to ride underneath it. So, got to we got to make it make sense. So, but yeah, I wouldn't say it's like too specialty. It's just it's specialty.
What was your next question, Derek?
Um, the other big one was, so I I have a lot of ramp seeds planted. Um, but they they're gonna come up for the first time next year. And same with the ginseng, I'm gonna be harvesting them in a sustainable way. So I'm not pulling them, I'm gonna be cutting the leaves and which enables me to harvest them as soon as next year, but also it's not the traditional, it's not the way that ramps are usually bought and sold. And my plan is to do the exact same thing that I've been doing with all my products, freeze drying and powdering them so they're easy to they are shelf stable for a long time and they're easy to use. But so like if this week if I fill out the form and I start talking with y'all, how will that work when I don't like with the ramps when I don't know how many are actually going to come up until this spring?
Ty, you're on mute. Go ahead.
So it's a fine question without a great answer. Like, you've with the third party audit, those things need to be certified through that process. So if those things are not certified, they're going to have to be at some point in time, unless we find that, the other, navigational process to get products into us. So that adds a little caveat to the question. Secondly, like, it's all about understanding what you think the cost of the consumer is. You're specifically talking about 2 items that don't have a huge market share, which is a good thing in itself, but it also doesn't at least give us a great baseline of like where the threshold of cost is going to be for a customer. So, I mean, really, we have to understand that. I mean, I know, for example, like with last year, we did just ramp leaves versus like whole ramp plants. Ramp leaves didn't sell worth a darn compared to, the chefs wanting the whole ramp plant. Now, again, I know you're talking about a powdered product opposed to the actual leaf, but you we, for what it's worth, I haven't, for what it's worth, have not heard those requests. So I don't have a great way of saying, you know what, you hit the hammer on the head. This is exactly what we're looking for, and I know what we can do with that. So it's hard to give a great specific, answer to a question that has just wild potential. So
But
I
now
just
we know about your products because you told us about them today. So that's a
yeah.
good start. And I think that was probably where Reggie was headed to say that, this is a great way to bring together different groups of people. And I saw some similar comments in the chat. So I'll let you close us out, Reggie.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to make note of time just to let everybody know that if you have to go, you're welcome to, but we can continue until the questions are done. Um, I've worked with Derek for the last couple of months, so I'm happy to see him on the call asking questions. I do think this is one of those things where if on the business end, if we can find customers within What Chefs Wants region that's looking for those specific products and doing our own marketing, there can be a connection made to creating new customers for What Chefs Wants, as well as adding that as a new vendor. So there are many, many ways to continue this conversation. Again, it's about building those networks and having the conversations to see how we can be beneficial for each other. Um, Again, my email is in this list. If anybody has any questions, feel free to jump in really quick. If not, feel free to shoot me any questions. If you registered for the event, there will be a video and a follow-up email being sent to you sometime, if not by this week, early next week. We're happy to reintroduce Ty and Maddie and What Chefs Want if we see a higher demand and more questions as needed. Ty and Lori, thank you for your questions. We would love to learn more about the produce that you all grow and how we can make sure that if you're looking to expand, we can help provide those avenues. Meigs County is not a county that we do not look at to try to benefit the farmers there as well. So again, feel free to use my email, the local Foods Connections email, and we'll be happy to continue the conversation. Ty, Maddie, anything else?
No, just thank you all for being here and joining us and sharing a little bit about what you're working on, and hope to see you and talk to you again soon. And thanks, Reggie.
Of course. Thank you
Yeah,
all.
thank
Have a
you
good
all.
evening.